Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Waves of Healing. We are dedicated to communicate to you and provide you with information of being aware and keep open mind to alternative ways of healing, whether it's physical, emotional, or spiritual. I'm your host, Leah Yekutiel, coming to you live from Los Angeles, California, every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Time. I'm a reconnective energy healing practitioner, a breast cancer victor, not victim, and the author of the book, Making the Breast of It. In order to learn more about me and my book, please visit my website at www.ilovemybreastcancer.com. All in one word, ilovemybreastcancer.com. And while you are visiting my website, please purchase my book and give a gift of love to somebody you love who went through breast cancer, where they can learn how to reclaim their femininity back after breast cancer, how to rebuild their self-confidence living with breast cancer, and learn how to accept the new image and love it. And they would learn that sexuality exudes from inside out and not from outside in. And the most important thing they would learn is through the many exercises in the book, how to connect with the spiritual aspect of life, where they realize that we women are not only our breasts in order to be viable, functional, sexual beings. And this is very, very important to learn and realize for both genders, because there's such a misconception in our society that women who had breast cancer are not women anymore. And I can prove you that I'm a woman in every part of my body, in every fiber of my body, even though I have only one breast. So, as you know, doctors can diagnose us, many times misdiagnose us, but we have to be vigilant. It's our responsibility to take care of our body, and therefore, if you visit my website, you can download for free 25 breast health tips, and if you apply them into your daily life, you'll be surprised how many cancers, breast cancers, or any kind of diseases we can prevent. So it's only up to us. Leave it to us to take care of ourselves, because we are the one who is responsible for everything that happens to us. And with that said, I want to tell you who is my guest today, who shed so much light about issues that incredible, that are taboo, that we don't talk about it. So let me tell you who is my guest. My guest today is Roberta Grimes, author of the book, The Fun of Dying and the Fun of Staying in Touch. I'm sure many of the listeners are already familiar with Roberta Grimes, but for those who are not that familiar, let me just tell you a little bit about her, and also that we are so lucky to have her on my radio show. So here is Roberta Grimes, is a business attorney, novelist, and speaker based in Austin, Texas, who had two extraordinary experiences of light as a child. In an attempt to understand her experiences, she has spent decades studying nearly 200 years of abundant and consistent communications from the dead and other afterlife-related evidence that eventually enabled her to assemble an in-depth understanding of who and what we are, how really works, how reality works, the nature of God, the meaning and purpose of our lives. Roberta has learned so much about the death process and the period immediately following death that in 2010 she published a brief summary of the best information called The Fun of Dying. Find out what really happens next. Her second book about after the afterlife, The Fun of Staying in Touch, will document the many ways in which the dead contact us and the wonderful recent research that is making it easier for us to contact them. Just imagine what kind of information we can get just reading these two books. I'm telling you, this is incredible. And I've learned so much from reading Roberta's book. So, Roberta, are you there?
I certainly am. Thank you so much for having me as your guest.
Oh, wonderful to have you. I'm telling you, I mean, you shed such a light on the taboo subject as death, because nobody ever talks about death. Usually people say, well, he passed away, he made transition, he did this or that. But you call it by its name, without fear.
No, that's right. Death for most of us is the best time of our lives. So I think it's gotten a bad rap. I'm trying to rescue it from that. It's a wonderful
this is
time
wonderful,
of life
and
for
you
all
did a
of
wonderful
us.
job, because
Thank you.
So clear. It made it so clear.
Thank you.
But my question is to you, being an attorney, that everything is written black and white, you know?
Right.
Right? And you switch to something that's so esoteric to a lot of us. How did you make this transition, or the combination?
It isn't. Yes, but it's not. People need to understand we have good, solid information about death. People think it's esoteric, but it's not. It's the only thing. Birth and death are the only two things that happen to all of us. It's universal. So, and the information about it is so solid, so concrete. It's not a change at all from what I do in my day job. The same skills that I use in legal research serve me very well in researching the afterlife. It's all real, and it's all better than anybody can possibly imagine, better than we've ever been told.
How long have you been researching this issue?
Well, I had my experience of light that got me curious when I was 8 years old. I'm 68 now, so it's been a while that I've been working on this.
And you're still working as an attorney?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I'll always. I love the people I work with. I'm a small business lawyer, and the small business community is salt of the earth. I love the people I work with. I'll never stop. For so long as they'll have me, believe me, I'll work with them.
That's wonderful. You can preach them both sides of the equation.
True. That's true. That's true. But I just want everyone to understand that what we've been told by science and what we've even been told by our religions are all sort of man-made theories that have nothing to do with what's real. What's real is much more wonderful than what anybody has ever told you. And the evidence is all there to be looked at. And if you don't have 60 years to spend on it, my books are sort of condense what I've learned and also give you resources. There's an appendix with about 70 books in it, all of which I've read, and I annotate the books and put them in categories so that if you want to know all of this, you could in a year duplicate what it's taken me 60 years to do. It's not hard, and it's so enjoyable. It's the most fun hobby you could possibly have, learning the truth about what's really going on.
Really? Is that amazing? I want to tell you personally, there is a saying that says there are two fears that most of us experience, fear of public speaking and fear of death. And I had fear of death. Public speaking, I'm doing okay, but when it comes to fear of death, I did have this fear of death. But your book sheds so much light on it that right now I don't care. Because
bless
I know.
You. What a wonderful... See, that's why I wrote the book. I wrote the book for you.
I know you did.
It's so important to me.
Your book could help a lot of people to shed the light, the fun, the enjoyment in it instead of the fear. You just take the fear away, and what's left is love.
Bless you. What a perfect thing to say. Thank you for saying that. That's wonderful.
I felt this way while I was reading your books. And believe me, I don't get anything by saying it. I mean,
right. I'm passing you nothing under the table as we speak. That's right.
Well, did you give me anything, Roberta? No.
No. I love how you say my name, by the way. It really is beautiful the way you say my name.
Thank you very much. So, how did you get yourself really involved in it, so deeply involved in it?
Well, when I was 8, I had an extraordinary experience. I had a sudden fear that there was no God. There was a flash of light in the room, a brilliant light, which illuminated the room, so I remember today what it looked like. And a young male voice said, "You wouldn't know what it is to have me unless you knew what it is to be without me. I will never leave you again." So I had to know where that voice came from. I had to know where that light came from. And even then, all I could think to do was try to understand where the dead were, because I thought it must be connected, although I don't know now why I thought that. People have said, well, why did you make that? I don't know why, but it started me trying to understand death. And it wasn't really until decades later that there was a lot of information, but I did what I could for the first, till I was in my late 20s. I did what I could, and then when we started to get very good information, primarily after 1975, when the wonderful Raymond Moody published Life After Life, and there started to be actual interest in death. Most people were, as you say, were avoiding the topic.
Yeah. Everybody.
That's right.
Yeah.
People were afraid. One of the reasons people have been afraid to investigate death is, what if there's nothing? Better not to know and have hope than to investigate, find out we really do decay in the ground and have no hope. So people wanted to not talk about it. But I knew, because of what had happened to me when I was a child, I knew there was something more. And so until I had figured it all out, it never occurred to me I should have actually worried about what I might find. But it's all good. It's better than anything anyone has ever told you. The truth is perfectly beautiful.
Why is it the clergymen, the priests, or churches make a big issue out of it versus telling the truth?
Well, it's especially shocking when you realize that Jesus, in the Gospels, those 4 books, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, told us exactly what the dead are telling us now. I mean, I can prove to you Jesus was real and knew what he was talking about because we've got confirmation. And he gives us confirmation of what the dead are saying. So there's really no excuse for any Christian clergyman to continue to preach that God is a judge, which God is not, or that Jesus died for our sins. That's not why Jesus came or what happened. All of those dogmas came from Paul. St. Paul had a horrible lemon handed to him, which was the death of the Messiah, and in order to come to some sense, he packaged it in Hebrew prophecy and in first century Jewish religious practices, which included sacrifices. And so he said, we've just been given the ultimate sacrifice. God gave us this sacrifice of his own child, so we don't have to do any sacrificing of little rabbits anymore or little pigeons in the temple. Made sense in the first century AD. Does not make any sense now. Why is there anybody who thinks that makes sense? Or it doesn't say horrible things about God. My goodness, what an insult to God that theology is.
I know. Is that crazy? I believe that God loves me, and God is love, and God loves everybody.
God loves you perfectly. It's impossible for you to be outside the love of God. Yes.
Not like us. I mean, there is God within each one of us.
Yes, that's a very good point. Yes. But one of the things that the afterlife evidence tells us pretty consistently is that our minds are eternal. We never began, we never will end, and our minds are part of the source. Our minds are part of God. The only thing that exists
is the source.
Yeah. The only thing that exists, in fact, is that source energy, which we call God. Nothing else, everything else derives from that. But our minds are part of that source. Our minds are eternal. And this is something which actually scientists have said as well, although those scientists who have said it have had this part of their work ignored. It's amazing to me that in the 21st century there's still people who don't understand what's going on, and those people are in prominent roles in churches and in universities as scientists. It's astonishing.
No, is that sad? I think
yes, very sad.
Us in dark. This way they have control over us.
Well, it also
your take about that?
Yeah, it is about control, especially in the churches, because their theology is so wrong. If they once said that, they would lose their careers. I think it's the same kind of thing going on in universities, because universities began 100 years ago to hew very strictly to two dogma. Dogmas, you understand, if you have a dogma, you're a belief system. Well, you can find in print the words that science's fundamental dogma is atheism, and you can find in print that science's ultimate dogma is underlying dogma is materialism. So atheistic materialism is the core of science. Now, nothing is solid. What we think of as material reality has an entirely different nature. It's all energy, and that's something the scientists know but don't talk about.
Absolutely.
And atheism is an odd dogma, too, when it turns out the only thing that's subjectively real is the source energy that you and I might call God. So basically they have it totally backwards, and since they do, all these careers for the past 100 years have been based on a belief system which is unconnected to reality. So at this point, I got to feed the kids. I'm a scientist. I'm certainly not going to go against the religion, which is atheistic materialism. I'm not going to go against it. I got to feed the children. So
now we know that the science and spirituality are the same. But
well, they will be the same once mainstream science makes the transition. They're looking now for a theory to unify quantum physics and Newtonian physics, and they haven't been able to find one, although they've come up with some really screwy ideas, but they've not found a unifying theory. What's going to unify both is a third wave of physics, which is consciousness-based. And it's something that we doing afterlife research are discovering. The thing that underlies all of reality is what we think of as human consciousness. And the greatest physicists have already said this. Max Planck got the 1918 Nobel Prize as the father of quantum physics. He's their big daddy. And he said human consciousness is primary. We can't get behind consciousness. Everything we talk about, everything we talk about as existing postulates consciousness. Wow. He said that in 1931, and to this day, it is ignored by the very people who revere his name. Isn't that sad?
Very, very sad. We are going backwards. I'm sorry to say that. I feel like we are going backwards instead of bringing light.
Absolutely. But not for much longer. There is work being done which is going to remove any possible doubt of whether we survive our deaths. And at that point, kicking and screaming, mainstream scientists are going to be dragged into the 20th century, never mind the 21st.
Roberta, how people who are interested in learning more about you and purchasing your book, what is your URL that they can go and learn more about you?
It's robertagrimes.com, and you can read excerpts from my books there and see whether they're for you, and you then can click through to Amazon if you like and purchase them. And there's also, I write novels as well, which are based in what I've learned in studying the afterlife evidence about human nature and the nature of reality, and I've gotten some very good reviews, so I'm happy now to trumpet my novels, and you can get one for free there if you'd like. There's my blog is there. I should say, too, that I do podcasts, and I now have more than 200,000 iTunes podcast subscribers. If you're interested, just go to iTunes and look for Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes, and you'll find a bunch of interesting interviews with people in this, talking about this enormously complex but really exciting field that we're just coming to, starting with studying the afterlife evidence and going on to understand what reality is and what we are. As of January 1st, I'm on webtalkradio.net, and webtalkradio.net is a general podcast service, and I'm there because I'm trying to reach people who aren't only interested in consciousness and these sort of perhaps more esoteric subjects. I mean, we're talking to people who are already enlightened, you and I are, but there are a lot of people who just go to webtalkradio.net to learn about business or planting, petunias or whatever. So I'm there hoping that they'll want to know about reality too. And so there's Seek Reality at webtalkradio.net as well. Thank you for letting me say all that. I love hearing from people, by the way. And if you'd like to talk to me, just at the bottom of each of my web pages, there's a little envelope. Click on that, and that's an email to me, and I answer all my emails.
Oh, that's wonderful. Wonderful. I encourage all the listeners, really, if you want to learn more about this subject, which affects all of us on planet Earth, we come and go.
And beyond.
now we learn, then, and we acknowledge and we are aware that we go in style, not in fear.
That's nothing to fear. That's exactly right. It's the most glorious time of your life.
This is so comforting. You cannot imagine how comforting it is for people who have fear of dying.
Yeah, I know. Dying has a bad rap. That's why I used a very upfront title, The Fun of Dying, so people would know that it's time to rehabilitate death. Death is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Best time of your life. True. It sounds funny, but it's true. It really is.
Because the way you put it, you say dying is the funniest part, the best time of your life.
It is.
Dying is the best time of your life.
It is.
Then why are we coming here, Roberta?
We come here to learn, really, for nearly all of us, the lessons we're here to learn are how to love perfectly and how to forgive completely. So everything that happens in your life was planned by you as a lesson in love and forgiveness. All the things you think are bad luck or negative stuff, everything that happens is either love or a call for love. The only possible response is love. And when we get that, we raise our spiritual vibratory rate to even higher levels in the afterlife. We have an even more glorious eternity. That's why we come here. We want to learn and grow spiritually.
Yeah, that's right. I totally agree with you. And when people realize that, they also learn that there's nothing to blame anybody. That we choose to come here and experience whatever it is.
Right. That's right.
I mean,
that's exactly
good
right.
or bad, there is something that we came here to learn. and to improve and help people and love people and love God. I mean, God does not put us through all this. It's our own choice. That's my understanding. What is your take?
Yes, you're right. No, that's right. We write a lesson plan with the people who will be important in our lives and our guides as well. And we write really tough lessons because we really are very ambitious about spiritual growth. When we come here, we forget that that's all it is. It's just a bad day in school, and these are just, lessons that ultimately don't mean anything in our eternal lives. Our eternal lives never began and never will end. This is just a minute of time. And when you look at it that way, nothing that happens in your life is serious. It's just a lesson. And if you surmount it, if you love and forgive no matter what, you grow spiritually so much stronger. And that's what it's all about. That's why you're here. Give yourself that gift.
Yeah, be aware about it. Just being aware about it, you raise your vibration and your consciousness. And
it's very important.
And
right?
It makes you happier. It made me happier.
It makes you so much happier. What a wonderful point that is.
Yeah.
The happiest people I know are people who have come to understand these truths and are living them. I never knew what happiness was until I put this all together and began to live this way. It just makes you so happy. You are absolutely right. And fear of death is the base fear. When you stop fearing death, you no longer fear anything. Even a mortgage payment. You don't fear anything. It just makes you so joyous. I mean, we think of life as, life sucks, then you die. I mean, what a depressing way most of us look at life. But if you understand that life is just a minute, it's like a minute in school. And then in a minute, you're going to go home for milk and cookies forever. with the ultimate parent who loves you perfectly, parent with a capital P. It turns a tragedy into the ultimate comedy. It makes you so happy.
Yeah. That's it. But how did we? This is really. I do not know what the right word to use. It's concept. Esoteric concept to so many people. How can we make it more available to people and bring people to understand this issue?
Well, that's why I wrote those books so simply. And you can read the main part of each of them in an evening. I mean, they're short, they're large print, they're easy to read. They're meant for people who really need this information. And once you have a summary in your mind, you can fill it in by reading the supplementary books. In each of The Fun of Dying and The Fun of Staying in Touch, there's what I think of as a core of 4 books. Just read these 4 additional books, and it's going to give you 85% of what I know. If you got more time, here's another 70 books, some of which are really extraordinary, that you can read. I don't know of another way to do it, because there isn't an online course. I'd love to develop an online course, and that's one of the things on my list, but it's number 17 and never seems to go higher. But there's not an easier way to do this, but fortunately the concepts are simple, and once you get those primary concepts, you start to lose your fear. You start to build your joy, and it just builds on itself. It's not hard.
Isn't that wonderful? It's really a wonderful feeling. Wonderful.
It is wonderful.
I started getting involved in this. Remember? Okay, I'm not going to talk about it. So we have 60 seconds left.
Oh.
So what would you say? What would you like to have the listeners as a closing interview with you today?
Please understand, above all else, you are a powerful, eternal being. You never began, you never will end, and you're infinitely loved. Whatever else goes on in your life, always, always remember that.
Wow, this is so wonderfully said. Okay, would you like to mention your website again, where people can go and learn more about you?
Yes, robertagrimes.com, and I'd love to hear from people, and let me know. Please read my blog. I put a lot of effort into it, and let's be friends. I'm meeting people from all over the world this way, and I love doing it. I love watching people grow spiritually. It's just the best fun there is.
Thank you very much, Roberta. I mean, you shed so much light on this issue, and I appreciate your time. And we'll talk soon, okay?
Thank you, dear. Big hug. Big hug to everyone.
Big hug to everyone. Bye-bye, Roberta. We are running out of time already.
Bye-bye.
Okay? Bye, Roberta.
Bye-bye.